Welcome to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person.
Dan, a pretty recurrent theme that we have on this podcast is that one of us or both of us are always completely and utterly exhausted. And so that is today's theme for me as well, Dan, because you see my son, and you know him, he's Luke, and you guys all know Luke. He's going to be 14 in 2 weeks. He's 6'2", and he's my NBA project. And so he was playing basketball this weekend with some early games over and over again. And Uncle Dave doesn't like to get up early at all. Okay. Uncle Dave likes to sleep in till 12, noon, 2 in the afternoon, whatever. So when he's got to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, well, you know what that means, guys? That means I have to enjoy my day as well. I got to go out and do my obligation for my son, my wife, whatever, and then I have to eat. Uncle Dave's a foodie, and so we eat. So let's look at what we might typically eat on any given day, okay? Here is what is called some cinnamon bun pancake and waffle mix. That's what I might typically eat if I were at home. But I'm not going to be at home, guys, because I'm out on the road, okay? I'm out on the road, all right? And so let me get rid of this here on my screen. And when I'm out on the road, I can't eat this at home. And here's the other thing at home. This would be pumpkin pancakes and waffle mix. But you see, I'm out on the road because we're going to basketball games. I have to find a restaurant. So guys, no matter what, they have the best, we're in Vegas here and you can get any type of pancake you want. If you come to visit me in Vegas, we'll get rid of my wife and we'll go out and we'll party and we'll go to the places where they have pancakes, every flavor you can possibly imagine. But I'm going to state unequivocally for the record that my favorite pancakes are Bananas Foster, that nice crystallized cinnamon banana stuff they put all over the top. And that's what I had today. And so normally, and Uncle Dan will tell you this, because he's Uncle Dave's first cousin on his second twice weathers removed side, that Uncle Dave does not eat before about 5 at night, unless he has to get out of the house early and find some reason to exist in that day. So Dan, what do you do from a foodie perspective when you have a day when it's all gone to heck and you just want to reward yourself and you say, I need to do something special for me from a food perspective today? What is the food, Dan?
That's when we DoorDash some McDonald's. Just when I don't have the time or can't be bothered to cook, that's when we DoorDash McDonald's.
Okay, Dan, you always DoorDash McDonald's. You're here. You're sorting my cards. I mean, it's McDonald's, but come on, what's the real special thing? Like maybe a McFlurry or something from McDonald's? Do you go past the value meal? What are we talking about?
Well, no, I'm lactose intolerant. You know that. It is just the couple of standard meals. I have those, $5 McChicken meals. You sometimes can't get those on the DoorDash or Instacart ordering those. So if you can't get those, I get a 10-piece nugget meal and a couple of hamburgers.
All right, Dan, who is it for me to tell you that a 10-piece nugget meal and 2 hamburgers is not as good as some Bananas Foster's pancakes? But I know our audience will weigh in and tell you that it's not. So congratulations on your routine situation. I guess I'm similar. I just have a better sense of taste than you. Dan, this week I was reading in a community forum, since we talked grading recently as some of my frustrations. I was reading about tag grading, and they were getting hammered because they received a package from a person who wanted to have some stuff graded, and they claimed about half of the package never arrived. And there's no way to really get through that and determine who was at fault and was it tampered with on the way and the rest of it. But the frustration that they had was that it was like some of the package got received, some didn't. And then Tag claimed that it was altered, but then at the same time, they claimed they didn't receive it. And then they claimed, well, some of it might have been lost while at the facility. And they didn't customer service communicate with the person that sent the cards. And it was a complete and utter mess, a disaster. And they offered to only settle for a fraction of what the cards would have been worth, whether or not it was raw or graded or whatever. So in those situations, I'm not sure there's a very good resolution, but it got me to thinking, why in this day and age, when all of the people that are generally transacting business in the eBay type world are filming everything, why are the grading card companies who aren't going to be trusted at this point on virtually anything, why aren't they filming every single opening of every package that's received? Every package that comes in the door gets filmed at least once. And then when it's opened, it gets filmed at least once. So there's an actual, memorialization of what is received and not this bunch of contradictory BS going out over there about whether or not it was indeed their fault or the person that sent its fault.
Well, I have heard that some grading companies, I think at least PSA, say that they have got cameras on every grader's workstation. So they fully film every card that goes through their hands, see exactly how they treat it, in case there's any issues of saying this was damaged at the grading level. But I don't know if PSA has the graders open the package there at their desk on the camera and grade them there, or if the packages are opened first and then submitted through the system. I don't know how the system works. It does feel, obviously, that cameras and stuff would be better for liability purposes, for who's potentially responsible, just have some kind of evidence. But I also believe that with the companies that do it, I don't think that's a thing where, the person who submitted the card can actually get the footage from the grader's desk. I think that's just the internal review process. So I think it's just another one of those things of the company has to think of how much will they actually lose money-wise if whatever percentage of packages are lost and they lose the claim against them, versus how much would it cost to actually put this camera system in place, have people review it. It's another thing where the companies will always be looking at what is going to be the best financial choice. And if companies aren't doing it, most likely it's because they've decided that any money they have to pay out in fees or in insurance purposes, or just paying out to people who've had cards lost or damaged, they've decided that that amount of money is less than what it would cost them to install this new camera system to film openings.
And clearly that makes sense when you talk about an actual, economic analysis. But what that fails to take into consideration is the damage to the brand. And so you've got these folks literally out there just lambasting Tag for their lack of responsibility, for their lack of taking responsibility, for their lack of a process of accountability, and for them ending up paying somebody much less than the cards that they received, even from an insurance claim. And so now it's all over social media. It's all over the Tag community forum groups, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think as you're speaking about the fact that when a package is left at my door, whether or not it's from Amazon or Postal Service or whoever, invariably these days, FedEx, whatever, they're recording it. They're showing it at my door. And so they're even using just a personal phone device to do that. And it would sure seem like that would be a very simple situation to put into place in a way of trying to protect the company from all of the besmirching of the reputation that goes on when it's claimed that they indeed did not do what they were supposed to do, or did not do what they say they were going to do or did. So I don't know. It's frustrating.
This is one of those things that comes with, we've talked about so many people making these drama channels, and any tiny little complaint against a company gets blown up to such a proportion that a lot of people, when it is something big like this, and this seems like it's quite a big incident, people don't take it as seriously because there's fatigue on the complaints about these companies, about grading companies. Like, something goes into the news cycle and 100 people have done videos on it and everyone's sick of hearing about it, and then it gets moved on and the next thing happens. There's another grading company's done something minor, but even if that next thing is so much smaller than this, the drama channels are all blowing it out of proportion. It's actually helping, I think, a lot of the grading companies deal with the bad press. The fact that all of this stuff just moves through the news cycle so quickly, and once it's gone, people forget about it. And then obviously we've talked so much about the biases that people have of, I'm going to ignore what happens with the company I like, and we'll talk about the companies I don't like. It really reminds me of, there was a situation in the UK where quite a few years ago, they fully 100% banned advertising of cigarettes. So no TV commercials, no radio, no in print. You could not advertise cigarettes anywhere. And what they actually said happened was that just hugely increased profits for all the cigarette companies, because what was actually happening when these cigarette companies were paying advertising budgets, it wasn't actually selling them any more cigarettes. It's because all of these other brands were doing the same thing. So it would have been, if only one brand was advertising, they would have been making huge more profits from it. But because every brand was doing it, no brand was actually benefiting. It was just they all had to keep doing it. Otherwise, one other brand would benefit. And when it got to the point of them legally saying none of you can do it, it was actually great because they all sold exactly the same amount of stuff and just didn't have to pay out all this money for advertising. And that genuinely feels like what's happening. is these brands don't have to worry about these PR disasters because of all of the amount of drama channels they're throwing it out there. There's so much of it out there that no one can focus on one specific incident, or no one can focus on one specific company. It is just putting it where every company is at that same ground level, where everyone knows that all companies have done something bad, probably have all done something bad recently, but no one can really, in their own mind, scale it as, oh, this thing that Tag did is a huge problem lately, or that thing that CGC did is a huge problem lately, because they're just bombarded with so much of these companies are doing bad things, they're doing bad things, there's 10 bad things in this company this week, there's 12 bad things in this company this week, and no one can get it straight in their own minds. And that's why I think that these companies don't really have to worry about the negative attention on the brand, because they know that for everyone out there, everyone who's using Tag is saying, I'm just ignoring the bad things Tag's done because I don't like these other grading companies, because any grading company you go to has bad things happening. So grading companies, they don't have to worry about the negative press, because there's negative press for them and all of their competitors in equal measure, no matter who's doing the worst thing at any one time.
Yeah, it becomes the lesser of which of the evils in this case, because there is no one that stands out from the others from when it comes to a press standpoint. So
Yeah.
I agree. All right, my friend, I'm going to move on to something today that is I want to talk about just briefly. I need your opinion. And the topic is not what we're going to talk about, but this is just an interim topic called hit rates. Hit rates. So here's my question. I was reading this week about people talking about prismatic evolutions and how frustrated they were when they said I had to open 300 packs or some outrageous number of packs before they got an SIR or before they got a big hit or whatever they were calling it. Maybe,
Yeah.
a couple hundred packs before they got their first God pack, whatever. And it got me to wondering, talk to me about hit rates. Talk to me about what makes something worth more money, because you open stuff videos for your channel, you open stuff to build your and lore sets. So is it the case that bad hit rates make something more desirable because, gosh, the gambler and people will keep fighting for that big one and they haven't got it yet? Or would it be the opposite, that bad hit rates make it less desirable? You're going to tell me it's somewhere in the middle, of course, but less desirable because people don't really want to keep opening it because they don't have a confidence in it that they're actually going to get what they feel they're deserving of based on the price they need to pay. Hit rates, your take.
If you go to a big Facebook group and you search the name of any set, you will find some people claiming it has great hit rates and some people claiming it has terrible hit rates. Any set, because there is variance, and some people will get bad variance and some people will get good variance, and to them they can't look at the bigger picture of, I'm taking 2 boxes out of a print run. They just see it as, oh, I didn't pull something great from my stuff. It's especially big with things like 151 Prismatic Evolutions, these products where you can't just buy a booster box, because in sets where you can buy a booster box, the hit rates or what you pull is a lot more concentrated. You could kind of predict it a lot better. Like with early Scarlet Violet sets, like all the stuff I open, every sealed box I open, I think with Scarlet Violet and Paldea Evolved, maybe Obsidian Flames too, I knew that I was getting either 2 SIRs or 1 SIR, 1 gold. That's the way it was throughout all of the sealed boxes that I opened. Moving into the later sets in the Scarlet Violet era, they dropped down a little bit, so it was like boxes would either have 1 SIR or an SIR and a gold. You could kind of see it a lot better based on the booster boxes. And if you're opening a couple of cases, you're seeing the same or very, very similar hit rates box to box. But when people can't get boxes, when they're opening what is essentially just completely loose packs, then the variance is so much bigger. Like if I took the seal off 36 boxes of Scarlet Violet base, and I pulled 1 pack from each box, I could open 36 packs with no hits in them. Or I can open 36 packs where I got 5 SIRs because I'm just pulling at random. And that's what these special sets are. You even get it where people will come out and go, oh, no, if you're buying 151, you want to buy the Zapdos collection because the Zapdos collection has much better pull rates than the Alakazam collection. And then people in the comments are like, oh yeah, I opened the Zapdos collection and I got a good hit as well, so that must be right. And it's all just confirmation bias. It's people saying, oh, I did that as well, so it must be right. I think the hit rates definitely change set. You can see that as you move across the Scarlet Violet era. But I think that 99% of the talk about hit rates is just people waffling and doesn't actually mean anything. And I think most of the people who are willing to put in, large amounts of money to be investing long term or in buying large amount of these products or in buying these more expensive booster boxes are the kind of people who will know not to listen to the chatter about hit rates.
Why can't Pokemon in an ETB type of circumstance like prismatic evolutions, when there's not booster boxes that exist, why can't they create a distribution that's similar, at least similar to what a booster box would be? So if you said, okay, we're gonna get 2 hits or 3 hits out of 36 packs, why can't we get 1 hit out of 10 packs? Why can't they do that and figure out a methodology that is kind of similar in ratio perspective standpoint, so that people are more guaranteed of being a bit happier no matter what in the pull rates?
Well, over the course of a print run, it is. If you say a 36 pack booster box, let's say a 36 pack booster box, we're at a set where you're going to get an SIR. There's some sets where you don't always, but let's say, for example, you get a set where every box has at least one SIR and has other good stuff in it too. If you split that up amongst ETBs, that's going to be one SIR in every 3.6 ETBs is going to be how it breaks down. Over the course of a print run, that's probably still true. But a lot of people are opening one ETB, and they're not opening 3.6 ETBs on average, they're opening one. And they're going, I didn't get an SIR. It's like, okay, but one in every 4 people that open a single ETB probably will. The odds exist across entire print runs. I will say Pokemon has never ever come out and guaranteed any kind of hit rate to a booster box. It is just that when you buy the booster boxes, it's just from seeing what you're opening, they are a lot tighter in that range. And there is always still a range in the booster boxes, don't get me wrong, it's never 100% fixed. It's just a much smaller range. It's like when we've talked about, buying the brick of build and battle kits. You're essentially opening 40 loose packs. So you might have 40 nuts packs, you might have 40 nuts good packs. It's just that kind of thing. Across the whole print run, they will have similar odds. It's just because you're not buying those booster boxes. If booster boxes were set up where you got like 4 SIRs per booster box, then yeah, you probably would get one in every ETB. But that's not the way it breaks down. And
Hold on, Dan. Hold on one sec.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam. I'm on a podcast and I own a gun. Get out of the room, okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. All right. So it is just a case of people who are worried about that stuff are looking at such a small part of the print run because they're only seeing what they're opening. And, people do like to gamble. People love to gamble. Anyone who's opening booster packs, they love to gamble. I love the gamble. Like, I'm opening my stuff, and, I always say, like, oh, I don't like the gamble that much, but I do. I like it when I hit the big thing. If the ETBs were, oh, you're guaranteed one SIR, and that's it, like, you're guaranteed it. I know if I open the ETB that I'm going to get 1, and I'm not going to get 2. It takes away some of the excitement about it. And also, It would make single packs so much more dodgy to buy than they already are with weighing, because I saw this with Star Wars Destiny a long time ago. because none of the cards in Star Wars Destiny were foil, so you couldn't weigh packs. So loads of people were like, oh, yeah, single packs are fine, you can't weigh them. It's like, no, but if I know that a sealed box has exactly 4 legendaries in it, which it did, I also know there was one, like, if I pick set, there was one set where Yoda was the Super Chase legendary, and it was like $100. I can start opening a box, and if I either hit Yoda or I hit 4 legendaries, I stop, and then I have some packs left over. So with that,
That if you were a bad character person, you could then go and sell to some unsuspecting buyer, which isn't fair to anybody. Exactly.
Yeah, I was explaining to people how just because you can't weigh a pack, it doesn't mean that people can't manipulate it in that way. And it would be a similar sort of things with ETBs, even if it was at a point where you couldn't weigh out the SIR compared to a regular EX or something like that, if you were guaranteed exactly 1 SIR, then people would just stop opening the packs from an ETB when they hit the SIR. There's a lot of sets in Japan where it's only safe to buy sealed boxes because there are certain hits where you're guaranteed exactly 1 per box. Like, I think with the 151 set in Japan, the reverse hollows, you were guaranteed 1 Master Ball per sealed box. Sealed box is 10 packs. So if someone got 6 packs in and hit their Master Ball, they're gonna a lot of people just not open those last 4 packs because they know that they've probably hit the best value thing they're gonna get. Or there's certain sets where you're guaranteed a certain amount, like an SIR in a box. So if you open, you know that the last few packs are dead. So it would just create that kind of thing as well, where it would be even worse to be buying loose packs if they did that. But the big thing is, it takes away the fun of it.
Number one, my apologies to those watching for Dan's, transgression in moving into alternative TCGs. This is something he does all the time. You'll figure it out on his channel. He has a lot of different TCGs he's involved in, from Star Wars to Doctor Who to Disney, Lorcana, whatever. So I continue to reemphasize to him, this is a Pokemon card podcast, but it really doesn't seem to sink in at all. And number 2 is, Dan, can you tell our audience why I do not open any ETBs based on what you just articulated?
Well, you just don't open any packs at all.
Why don't I open any packs at all, Dan?
Well, because you don't like the variants. It's much... If you're someone out there who's collecting who can't afford to just buy a complete set, and you don't have any worries about wanting to make content or anything around it, then it is so much better to buy the full set, because you then don't have to worry about selling these extras of cards that you got. And also, you have such an addictive personality that if you started opening booster packs and enjoyed the pulls, you would just be constantly opening booster packs.
That's right. I don't like to gamble is the answer. You kind of went right around it, so I'm going to give you a correct answer on this one, Dan. But yes, I am not a gambler because not only does the personality addictive, but I also feel like my luck is always bad, and I don't want to get involved with that. I want to enjoy the hobby for the positive stuff and not feeling like I missed out every time I opened a pack and got zero da. All right, Dan. Next topic for today, I'm going to talk about 2024 Pokemon World Championship decks. Now, recently, I ordered some things that I have not yet caught up with in the collection. So I bought some 2023 Pokemon World Championship decks. Here's the box that came in. And if you notice, this is a sealed case of them because it's almost as cheap for me to buy a sealed case of 8, pull out 4, and then convince Dan maybe to buy the other 4 if he needs them for him and Laura or something else. So we'll figure that out later. And they make this in a 2024 as well. So I ordered one of each of those, and I had to order one of these at the same time because I was trying to get free shipping or whatever. So I threw this in. So I have one of these so I can have this cute pouch and store all my trophy cards in for my entire life in this single pouch, put it away in my house and wonder, show it up, Dan, very nice. And so I can wonder what the heck happened to all them once I lose them. Well, here's what happened. I get the 2023 decks. They came in. And I got the pouch, it came in. And all of my orders showed shipped at that point, completely and delivered. So I called the company and I said, where's my 2024 decks? Because, by the way, if I'm getting free shipping or something, wouldn't you want to ship it all together? You think most companies would. This is one of the largest companies. They don't seem to care much about that stuff. A few dollars to them doesn't seem to be very much when it comes to logistics. and they said, we actually have not shipped your 2024s yet. They're not due out till May of this year. So I started thinking, Dan, tell me why. What is the deal? The Worlds were in August of
Yeah.
2024, and World decks don't come out until May of 2025. It's got to be one of the longest product cycles of almost anything.
Yeah, for some reason this year there was some sort of delay. I believe they were scheduled maybe to come out in January or something originally. They normally come out much, much earlier than this. They were announced and then there was some sort of delay announced to them, and they said they were being pushed back till May. We don't know why, but that's just what they announced. This isn't normal.
Okay, and maybe it has to do with something, completely speculating that, because you wouldn't think it'd have to do with printing and the rest of it. So maybe it's got to do with some deck that was or was not produced for one of the winners, and maybe they gave consent, and maybe it wasn't exactly perfect, or it was taken away later, something logistically. Because obviously, all of those decks, when they are produced, they have to give the consent of the winners to be able to show them, and then they have to be packaged as a group of four in some way, a group of eight in a case, or at least a box inside a case or something. So maybe that had to do with it. I don't know. It was just surprising how
Uh,
much time had gone in between.
I I haven't been behind the scenes, obviously, when they were doing it these last couple of years of how much tighter it is, but in previous years, whenever players get to the top four, because they've never printed a deck outside the top four, I don't believe, but they have players fill out all of that documentation and consent forms and stuff. Then, like I think it was 2011. I was around like David Cohen and stuff when he was doing it, and they have them on site at Worlds fill out like what their ideal name would be for the deck if they have their deck printed. They have them do their signatures in boxes on the paper so they can, they print the signature on every card. All of that, at least in the past, was done on site at Worlds. I assume that it would be the same because that makes the most sense. I mean, I know at Worlds the last couple of years, there is a ton of paperwork that the winners have to do before they get released on the night because, we're around trying to speak to them about trophy cards. So I would assume it's all done there. My thought would just be it's some kind of printing production thing. Maybe it's not to do with the cards. It might be to do with, the pins or the booklet or anything that comes in with it. Or it could simply have been that we know that Pokemon's using their printers to full capacity. They could simply have made the executive decision of delay these by a couple of months so we can get more regular sets printed. Because,
I think that makes a lot of sense, Dan. I think
yeah,
that's a very good prediction as well, because speculation as well, because indeed, who would even want these decks? Okay, so I'm going to give you that question as my follow up. Who the heck wants these world decks? When you think about it, to my knowledge, and I don't play the game, but it certainly seems like there's a constant evolution of what decks are the most successful from year to year when it comes to winning regionals, winning nationals, winning worlds, etc. And so these decks, while a wonderful commemorative type of thing based on a point in the past, I don't see why anybody, I guess if you wanted to play your friends and have some way to use a deck, that might be fine. But most people that are going to be really competitive are going to be looking for the latest and greatest thing to go by. So why do you collect these decks? Well, again, maybe they've got a character inside of them. If you're a character collector, maybe you're someone like you and I who like to get everything. But the vast majority of people, in my mind, don't fit any of those categories this year or would not be down in the weeds to that degree. Why does they, forgetting why they print them, let's say why they print them as an honorarium to the people who did successful, that's fine. Maybe out of straight tradition because they've done them for a long time. Maybe they don't have to do a huge print run just to keep things going as if they've gone for since 2004. But Dan, why should they even bother or not? Who wants these darn decks?
I mean, I think the only real um, market for them in terms of players is players who are just playing casually at League because you can't use these decks in any sort of tournament, but they want to, maybe try out a higher powered deck just to see how it functions, or maybe they try the play styles of them to see if there's a certain style they like and see if they want to find a deck that's current in the format that maybe is a similar sort of style, maybe a more controlling deck, maybe a more aggressive deck. They can certainly find parallels. The other is a lot of people do keep these as if they want to just break out some decks from a certain world's format. I know there are a lot of players who, especially like EX, Diamond and Pearl era, a lot of players will have copies of these so they can replay certain matchups from certain world years. If they really like the format back then, it's a lot easier to get these than it is to keep fully built actual decks. These would be a lot cheaper. Even if some of the older ones of these are getting pretty expensive, they're certainly still a lot cheaper than the regular cards. But the other option is, they do come with a lot of trainers and stuff that, because the decks use obviously all the best trainers. So some people get them to proxy up decks. Like if you have your nice fancy set of rare candy, but you don't know which of the 10 decks in the format you're going to play, you don't want to buy 10 actual play sets of rare candy. Get a couple of these decks, put the rare candies from these into them, and then just move your real ones into the deck that you're actually going to play at the event. And then obviously there's people who, like we said, just collect stuff. I honestly think recent years, I think more people have bought these for the pins than they have for the cards, because there's a very nice pin themed around world each time. And I think more people are interested in that than they honestly are in the decks, at least at this point.
And they're not that expensive when it comes to acquiring and taking something out like that. So
Yeah.
I just want to give you a favorable review. Luca the cat just gave you a firm pause up for that dissertation about all of that. So thanks, Dan. By the way, because he's sitting right here next to me enjoying the sound of your very soothing voice. Dan, I'm going to finish up with this. Here's what I'm going to say. We talk about world championship decks. That leads me to think about the world championships, which leads me to think about winners or participants at every single year of the world championships. And when you are there, usually participants are given some kind of player pack of cards, 9 or 10 different languages, different countries. We can talk about that at a different time for those who aren't familiar. And then, of course, if you're fortunate enough to finish in the top 64, depending on what year, 32, 16, top 8, top 4, top 2, 1 finalist champion, there's all kinds of other things you can possibly be awarded and rewarded with. But as you take me back 20 years ago, Dan, there was a card from 2005 that, to my knowledge, and you're going to tell a story about it right now, was given to people who were at the World Championships of that year. And to my knowledge as well, you'll correct me when I'm often wrong, and usually am. And so here we go again. Da la la, Dan smart, Uncle Dave knows nothing. Dan, when you describe that card to our audience, can you tell us, is that the only card that's ever been given out at Worlds that's not necessarily Worlds related? Go ahead, my friend.
So what we're talking about is Championship Arena, which is a Nintendo Black Star promo associated with Worlds 2005. And it was only given out to participants in Worlds. It wasn't just given out to anyone that was at Worlds. But I do believe it's the only card that's ever been specifically given out to Worlds players that doesn't have, like the World stamp and stuff on it. Obviously, 2004 you could get the Tropical Wind without any stamp on it at all. That was given out to players and spectators. I believe just anyone who was there could get multiple copies of the Tropical Wind without any sort of stamp on it. But the Championship Arena was something a bit different. So it came in a little cardboard booklet. People will cringe at this, but it was bent into 2 little slits in the booklet, and 2 corners of the card were jammed into it. And the way it was distributed was it was pushed under the hotel room doors of people who qualified for Worlds. So obviously they did their sign in and stuff as regular when they signed up. That's when they got their binder with their players set in it, which they were called the 9-card set, but it was actually 7 different languages plus 2 like filler cards, one of which would announce where next year's Worlds would be. If you can believe that, they used to just give it out to players at the player meeting or at the sign-up desk rather than making a big deal out of it at the end of the event. But this one was, it must have been that Worlds back in the day, so many players who were playing got paid invites and they got their paid hotel rooms, so Pokemon knew they were all staying at the same hotel and knew which hotel rooms they were in. So they got them slipped under the door of the hotel rooms. And I've heard from a couple of people that I think the few players that qualified through the grinder, the last chance qualifier, were also just given this card when they qualified. That's what I believe anyway. Stories I'm remembering from conversations I had with people 15 years ago or something. But yeah, every player who qualified for Worlds also got a copy of this championship arena as well as their regular tropical tidal wave set.
And Dan, you have spoken before. Please just reiterate for the audience about the condition because of the way the cards were distributed.
Yeah, so because of the way that they were distributed inside this booklet that had, like I said, it was two slots cut
You'll
into
have
it.
pictures. You'll have pictures on the
Yeah,
screen. I have
we'll
the
have pictures
booklet,
on the
and
screen.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got one as well. So
Okay.
because of the way it was in, um, there were very often light pressure marks on the back of the card on two of the corners, because you would always look at the same two corners. I believe it's, if you've got the card on the back, I think it's top right and bottom left, but you'll be able to see from the pictures of the on screen which one it is. But there's most of them you can tell. It's very, very faint. It's on most of them. It's not ones where you turn it over and go, "Oh, that's really bad." But when you know you're looking for it, if you tilt it the right way, you can often see. And it's often just like kind of. It looks more like discoloration a lot of the time rather than being an actual dent. But you can definitely tell where it was in there. Fans of Japanese cards I'll know the cards from the Maisaki campaign, which were 6 holofoil cards that you got, and the way you got them was you had to mail in the previous evolution of the card and a Bill's PC card, and you mailed those off and you got sent back in the mail these evolved forms of the Pokemon to mirror having to trade Pokemon in the games. And those were in a similar way where they came back with 2 corners inside the packaging. And those as well are very, very hard to find in perfect condition because of the fact that a lot of them have these corner dents. And so with obviously the older Japanese stuff, grading is a lot bigger than it is just in like mid-level English as a whole, like mid-table EX era English. So the PSA 10s and the whatever company 10s really of those Maisaki promos command huge premiums just because there's so few of them. And Championship Arena as well, in terms of like how many are graded, I believe it's very, very low amount. Actually got a 10, like relative to the total amount submitted. There's some cards which have very low numbers, but as I'll say, people always talk about, oh, this card has 5 copies and a 10, but look at the total thing. If this card has 5 10s and 1 9, it's not as impressive. If this card has 5 10s and 2,000 9s, oh, maybe it's worth talking a bit more about the condition issues. But
Yeah.
Championship Arena is one of those where,
Yeah, and I mean, and we know as well that if it was graded by PSA, there was a good chance that anything that was given a higher grade was not supposed to be given a higher grade, but they were able to upcharge on that at people's financial insecurity. I kid. Dan, my last question about this today is: any thoughts from any speculatory standpoint of how many cards Championship Arena exist?
it would have been one for every player, so we could probably dive into exactly how many players qualified for Worlds that year, but it'll be a few hundred. My guess would be it'd be about 200 to 300 copies. Worlds was a lot smaller back then, and I'm sure that some staff members managed to wrangle themselves an extra copy. So yeah, probably about that would be my guess. Is about 200 to 300. It might be more. I don't know how many
I
extra
don't think
copies.
so. I think you're right on. I think you're very close because I think that's just kind of reminding me of tournament size, 3 divisions, and then you add in the last chance. So I'd imagine 250 to 300 is a really good guess.
Yeah.
So, all right, Dan, I am done for today with my topics. Thank you for meandering with me as you always do. I like the fact that we get into hobby related discussions, and I hope that folks that watch enjoy that too. I think it's fun to do with your friends and just sit down and pick a topic and kind of see where it takes you. Dan and I do this all the time because most of the time my wife isn't speaking to me because of Pokemon, and his wife similarly, but more so because they have a jealousy of each other and what they're doing independently that doesn't necessarily mesh into the marriage the way a good Pokemon relationship should. Dan, any final thoughts, my friend?
No, I think that's all that needs to be said today. We might join you again tomorrow. It might just be me. Who knows? But hopefully David's free. So we'll see you again very soon.
Okay. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person, with music by More Than Never and artwork by Lore Norton. A special thanks to all our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to.